Hello, everyone. I'm Fozzie Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How are you doing today, Will?
I am doing great, Cam. Your team, the Celtics, just won their first round NBA playoff series, and my team, the Warriors, are up 3-1 in their first round series. So lots to feel great about there. And yeah, I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic, and I just want to address a few things tonight. My camera is off. My cord is broken. I'm not shutting myself off from the world. The cord for my webcam is broken. So I feel like I had to address that. The next thing is just something I briefly want to ask you, Will, because I have been discussing this with a few friends of mine today. The Lakers play tonight, right?
Yes.
Do you think if they lose, LeBron could announce his retirement?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. Yeah, Lakers Timberwolves. Let's see. This would be game 5 tonight with the Lakers in a 3-1 hole. I mean, that's a bad look for them. I mean, could I see a world where LeBron announces his retirement? Like, it wouldn't shock me because he is 40, but I also have a hard time believing it from the standpoint of the guy is still playing at an elite level even at this age. I remember just a couple months back he won, I believe it was Western Conference Player of the Month. So if he retires, it wouldn't shock me, but I also think that he'll probably continue playing because he still seems to be playing at such an elite level. And I think sometimes when you're adjusting to when you have a new team, sometimes it can take a bit of I think there could be an adjustment period and sometimes you might not experience success at first, but you might down the line after you have more experience playing together. And LeBron and Luka Doncic have only gotten half of a season to play together this year, so I could see LeBron maybe wanting to get a full season with Luka under his belt, and see where that goes.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said. He still is in not I wouldn't say his prime, but he's not bad. He's good. He's really good actually. But Tom Brady retired, and granted, different sport, more physical, but he was still a very good quarterback, and he decided to retire. So I could see him announcing it tonight. But like you said, I think he'll want a full season with Luca, um, just to maximize the chances of him getting another championship, which is totally possible. I think because Luca's nasty, Bond's nasty. If he keeps playing at this level, doesn't get hurt. Um, But do I see a slight maybe possibility? Yes, yes, for sure. But we have other stuff we have to talk about today. We've been meaning to do an episode like this for a while, and that is just an episode where we kind of check some things off the agenda. Um, I mean, first and foremost, we're big Bruce Springsteen fans on the Everything podcast. We've known that for a while, and Bruce has recently announced this epic album compilation. I don't know what you want to call it, but whatever you want to call it, it's called Tracks Two, and has seven. Right? Well, seven,
Yep.
seven, seven unreleased albums from different eras of his career, which to me, I am amazed by. At first, I was a little annoyed because I didn't. I was just kind of confused by the whole thing, and that's totally my fault. But the way he was rolling out the album, at first I thought it was a brand new album. A little disappointed that it wasn't, and then I was kind of worried that I wouldn't know what era each album was, and I kind of would. I still do wish he would just release them all as seven separate albums, like on streaming. It would just make it a lot easier. But I mean, the track series is kind of a thing at this point, so I guess it makes sense that he wanted to do this because this had been rumored to be in the works for a long time anyway. So either way, yeah, any Springsteen content is good Springsteen content. That being said, um, there was one. There have been two singles. That's "Rain in the River" and "Blind Spot." The first one, "Rain in the River," I liked a lot. "Blind Spot," I did not love. I did not think that was a great song. Um, I definitely know that's from the streets of Philadelphia era, and that is totally there. And in the River sounds something almost like it's off of Wrecking Ball, like a demo off of Wrecking Ball, even though it's obviously a different project. Maybe it was something worked on around that time. Who knows? I don't. I have to figure that out. What album it's supposed to be off of? But out of the singles that have been released so far, well, what have been your favorites?
Um, I'm not sure if I have a favorite between Rain in the River and Blind Spot. I would say I think they're, pretty good, pretty decent songs, but not songs that have blown me away. Like I can understand why Bruce released them as tracks and didn't put them on an official album. Um so yeah, like I don't think Raid in the River and Blind Spot are bad songs, but they also haven't knocked my socks off either. But
Yeah,
and I definitely would have appreciated if Bruce had maybe done something where he put out an album a month for 7 months straight instead of putting, seven unreleased albums out all at once. But then, there's also the thing of like we as Springsteen fans, like we can listen to tracks to however we want. If we want to listen to an album a month, we're in our full power to do that. So there's a part of me that's like, I wish Bruce would release like an album a month for 7 straight months. But then there's another part of me that's like, if that's how we as Springsteen fans want to consume the content, there's nothing stopping us from consuming it that way. But
yeah,
my biggest takeaway, and look, I mean, I don't know, I don't know what the quality of these albums will turn out to be. We'll see because, these were albums that Bruce didn't end up releasing. These are unreleased albums. If Bruce thought these albums were good enough, to be official albums, he probably would have put them out in the
yeah,
past. So we'll see what the quality of these turn out to be, but whether the quality of the albums is great or not so great, this is what I'm always going to come back to with this Tracks to the Lost Albums project with Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen has already put out 4 discs worth of tracks. He has the essential bonus disc, which has a bunch of unreleased material. He
yeah,
has The Promise, which is a bunch of outtakes from Darkness on the Edge of Town. He has a whole album's worth of outtakes from The River. At the end of Greatest Hits, he had songs like This Hard Land and Blood Brothers, which were never before heard, or at least never before heard on an album, E Street Band songs. So what I'm getting to with this is, with all the things I just named, you would think that would be enough unreleased material for a lifetime for an artist, especially for a guy like Bruce Springsteen, who's put out so many albums over the years. You would think tracks, the essential bonus disc, the Darkness on the Edge of Town outtakes, the River outtakes. You would think that would be enough unreleased material for a lifetime for a guy like Bruce Springsteen.
yeah.
Nope, he has 7 more unreleased albums. The guy is just unbelievable. I know he said that he hasn't written a new song in a couple years. I know he's on a songwriting drought right now, but the guy just continues to absolutely blow me away with the amount of material that just keeps coming out of him over the years. And you would think that all the stuff I just named would be enough unreleased material for a lifetime. Nope. 7 more unreleased albums that Bruce Springsteen has yet to share to the public until now. I just think the guy is unbelievable from that standpoint.
I agree, and I mean they're unreleased for a reason. They just weren't up to his standards, which kind of means that people who aren't diehard Springsteen fans probably aren't gonna love these albums. They're probably not gonna have any classic songs on there, any hits, anything. They didn't get released for a reason because they weren't great albums. But as a Springsteen diehard, I think it's good just to see that sort of progression in his career and see maybe a time where he wasn't as great of a musician as he is now, and some some albums he experimented with sounds that we just haven't heard really yet. So I think it'll just be cool to see.
Yeah, for sure.
But now we have some big stuff to talk about here. Obviously, another big thing we're fans of here on the podcast, Marvel. And Marvel has a new movie, which you'll be able to see tomorrow. Um, and I'm going to be seeing it tomorrow, and Will's going to be seeing it on Friday. So we're going to have to give our thoughts on it, and that is the Thunderbolts. Which, I mean, you were more skeptical than me when it came to the Thunderbolts, but obviously, just because of the track record Marvel's got at the moment, especially after that disastrous Captain America movie, which wasn't a great movie at all, to be honest. After that, and I thought that was going to be fine from the trailers. It wasn't. It wasn't great at all. So I just that being what it was made me more skeptical about this movie and also Fantastic Four. But the more trailers I got, I was like, okay, I think it's pretty clear that this is going to be a better movie. And finally, I got reassurance. We got the first reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Captain America Brave New World currently has a critic score of 48%. At the moment, that is the most recent Marvel movie. That's not a great score, but there were people who liked it from audiences. It got mixed reviews, 78 for audience. And this has kind of been a track record, I should add, actually, because not a lot of people have loved Marvel movies as of late. So, a normal person would expect, oh, it's probably just going to be more of that. Nope. The Thunderbolts has, and I'm happy to report this, currently has an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. And Will, as someone who was more of a skeptic on this than I was, what are your thoughts on the score being so high?
I'm surprised. I certainly didn't expect it to be this high. So it definitely opens up the possibility that maybe I could be proven wrong, but I could also see this being a case of something like Deadpool, to where the critics might really like it, but it just might not be my comedy style. And the first couple Thunderbolts trailers that came out, I thought they made them look like it would be more of a comedic movie. So maybe, maybe I will go on to be proven wrong, and maybe I'll end up enjoying this film. But I could also see it being a thing where it's more other people's comedy style than mine.
And yes, I see what you're saying, but from what I've heard, and we're going to dive into some specific reviews in a second, but from what I've heard, yes, there's some comedic elements, but I mean, that's in every Marvel movie. But it was mostly noted the heart, how much it has to offer, and I think the people behind this movie are more talented, frankly. I mean, not to be rude or anything, but are just more talented than some of the other people who have worked on things like the new Captain America movie. Um, so I think that's probably going to be a big cause for it being a better movie. But I obviously it'll have comedic elements, but I think the heart and not drama, but more dramatic moments are going to play a big part. Um, we'll also get into our theories. I also wanted to mention that, but let me dive into some specific reviews. We'll start with positive reviews. Um, this review says the Thunderbolts are a flawed group, but they are making audiences care about the MCU again, which is what you love to hear. And I don't believe in superhero fatigue. I just think it's not real. I mean, you can't say it's real when these movies still make hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. You can't say that, oh, I don't watch superhero movies when Deadpool and Wolverine made $1 billion. Spider-Man No Way Home made $1 billion. These TV shows no one likes are still pretty successful for the most part, you know. So Honestly, I was never a believer, but MCU in general, as a Marvel fan, I just kind of been upset about the lack of quality. It's not like I was gonna stop seeing the movies. I just wanted them to be better, and that's just reassurance. That's just more reassurance right there. This review says, and it's kind of what I just mentioned, Marvel has finally made a comeback after a dull phase with a soulful, adventurous affair in the form of Thunderbolts, which resonates mainly because it has taken mental health as its central theme. Which, another thing I've been hearing quite often, and honestly, from the Thunderbolts movie, having mental health be a prominent theme in the movie? What? That is not a theme I was expecting to be explored in this movie.
Yeah,
Thunderbolts Thunderbolts desperately tries to be its own film, and when it succeeds, it works. So that's probably the most mixed review I've seen so far, and that's still a good thing. I've praised movies like Multiverse and Madness, which no isn't a perfect movie, but it does its own thing and experiments. I'd rather see a movie that tries something and makes me feel something than a bland corporate piece of garbage like I don't know the Marvels or whatever. So even if this movie wasn't going to be great or good, even, I would have been equally happy that it tried something new. And that's why I've kind of stopped looking at the Eternals negatively, because that tried something different, tried something new, and it didn't totally work, but I respect it for that, you know? But go ahead, what were you going to say, Will?
yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say that, yeah, I'm if like I'm happy to hear that these reviews are so good because Marvel is certainly in need of a hit, and if this movie turns out to be as good as these critic reviews say it is, I mean, that would be huge for the MCU because they're in desperate need of a hit right now. And I was also gonna say that I'm happy to hear about these things like mental health being a focus and there being aspects of it being a drama in there because when I saw the third Thunderbolts trailer that came out recently and it was my favorite trailer of the three because it made it look more like a drama than a comedy, which is more my type of superhero movie. But I was also like, hold on, the first two trailers you've come out with have made this movie look like a comedy, and then this third trailer that you came out with is making it look like a drama. And I was thinking, if you're the MCU, don't promote this movie to be something that it's not. Don't come out with a trailer making it look like a drama if it's going to be a comedy more in line with the first two trailers. So that is what makes me so happy to hear that. Beside that, there'll be comedic elements, but it sounds like there'll be some other elements too, and that's great to hear because I wouldn't want Marvel coming out with a third trailer for Thunderbolts making it look like a drama and there being no drama aspects in it at all.
I think they honestly thought that people would be more interested in watching a comedy rather than a full on drama, but I think they kind of realized no, people just want a good movie, you know?
Yeah,
Not
definitely.
not that comedy movies aren't good, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But let's get into our predictions here. And when I say predictions, I mean story predictions. And the main thing I've been hearing and kind of thinking myself, will this? I also want to get this off. Obviously, or not obviously, but it's been pretty much confirmed that the main movie isn't a cameo fest. I don't think there are any cameos at all. It's focused on the story, which is phenomenal, like a normal Marvel movie, right? But the end credit scene, or the mid credit scene, whatever it was, is at 2 minutes and 30 seconds long, which is the longest Marvel movie end credit scene ever. I
Wow.
think, I think, and I've heard rumors of this online and such, that could be Doctor Doom's debut. I've heard theories. Would I love to see that? Yes, I would. But I could also see, I don't know, maybe Fantastic Four getting involved. I've seen theories of that as well. I've also seen, I don't know, maybe just developing the story more, which could also make sense because it's a movie that's mostly focused on the story rather than the cameos. So I could also see the end credit scene most kind of serving as an epilogue, almost a short epilogue, kind of wrapping some stuff up. But would I love to see Doctor Doom's first appearance in Thunderbolts? Yes. But do you have any major predictions for this movie, Will?
Um, I mean, the fact that that is going to be the longest MCU post-credit scene ever definitely sticks out to me because if it's going to be that long, that tells me that there's probably a reason for that. So if it is something like Doctor Doom's introduction, that wouldn't shock me. I've been talking to in terms of predictions. I've been talking to our frequent podcast guest James a lot about this film, and he's mentioned to me that he hasn't seen the character of Ghost in the trailers for this movie too much, so he was speculating that maybe Ghost will get killed off in Thunderbolts, and I feel like Marvel is usually pretty reluctant to kill off main characters in its films, but James was saying that he was only seeing Ghost kind of like in the same scene every single time that that character would be shown in promotion for the movie. So if Ghost gets killed off based off of what James has been sharing with me, that wouldn't shock me. And another prediction that I have for the movie, this is something basic, but obviously we have seen the MCU with Avengers Infinity War end on a cliffhanger ending where the characters lose. That
Sure.
being said, I've given up on these non-Avengers Marvel movies not having a happy ending because even if like there's a happy ending, but then maybe in like the post-credit scene or something like a bigger like threat is teased, like we've seen that happen, but I refuse to believe that this movie will not end on a happy note because that just seems to be the route that Marvel goes in with pretty much anything outside of Avengers Infinity War. So would it be great to see Marvel shake up the formula and have its heroes lose for once? Sure. I mean that would bring in some new freshness, but even if Doctor Doom is like teased as a big threat in the post-credit scene or something like that, I refuse to see this movie ending in any other result than the Thunderbolts coming out on top. That just seems to be the Marvel formula most of the time.
Yeah, I agree with you, but then again, this movie is about villains, and I mean,
Right.
villains tend to lose in these movies. And granted, they're reformed to a point, but still, it makes it easier. I think for the it would make it easier for the Marvel writers to do something where some characters die, some characters lose, and I have heard that theory that James mentioned to you a few times as well. Um, so honestly, I think they're probably going to be willing to take more risks, just because people aren't as in love with these characters because they're not great people. Like John Walker was almost the second villain of Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? So, I mean, you kind of have to take that into account. Not everyone's going to be a fan of that. That being said, I hope that we're able to get fully attached to these characters. Like I said, they're villains, and I think the Loki show did a good job of making you like them. But I don't know, these guys are all not great people, so we'll see there. But I also wanted to talk about today a movie that we both have had the pleasure of seeing, and that is A Complete Unknown, starring Timothy Chalamet. I am very excited for this movie, or not excited for this movie. I enjoyed this movie very much because, honestly, Timothy Chalamet is one of, if not my favorite actor working in Hollywood right now. Not only is he just a great person, as shown in his interviews, he just seems like a normal guy. His performances that I've seen, and I don't think the ones I haven't seen are bad at all. I I think he's good in everything, right? He always tries his hardest. He mentions this in interviews. He's not in this to play around. He's in this to be a great, you know? He's in this to be one of the greats, which is an insane thing to say. But, he said it, and I respect that a lot. So, Timothy Chalamet, honestly, like I said, one of my favorite actors, Bob Dylan. I started to get into quite a bit before this movie came out in preparation for it. Never ended up seeing it in the theaters, but I watched it out of the theaters. Will saw it in theaters. Um, I love this movie. I listened to the Timothy Chalamet soundtrack a bit. Not as much as Will did, but it made me love Bob Dylan even more than I already did, and I had gotten pretty deep into him, to be honest. Just honestly because I wanted to get more familiar for the movie because I wanted to know the songs going into it. It's like going to a concert kind of, but instead of a concert, it's a musical biopic starring Timothy Chalamet. I mean, overall, I gave this movie on Letterboxd. Follow me on Letterboxd. Um, I gave this movie a 4 out of 5 star review. I think it's a really good movie. I think Timothy Chalamet is great in it. I think Edie Falco's great in it. I think Edward Norton's great in it. Everyone holds their own in this movie. And the only criticism, I don't really even have this, but that I've heard, is that some of the events are just blatantly inaccurate. But not only does that kind of make sense because it's Bob Dylan and that's totally something Bob Dylan would do, but it also has to be a movie, right? You also have to enjoy it as a movie. It's not gonna be this you know what I'm talking about? This crazy, movie, right? So I just think, I just overall, this was probably, even though I saw this in 2025, this was probably my second favorite movie of 2024 that came out in 2024. It was very, very well made. And Johnny Cash, I thought was phenomenal. I was very impressed with this movie. But Will, you saw it a little longer ago than I have, but I'm sure you still have thoughts you want to share on it. So, how did you feel about this?
Yeah, I thought this movie was just excellent. And what makes it so satisfying is that this movie should have never worked. No one should have been able to play Bob Dylan, and yet somehow Timothy Chalamet pulled it off. I just marvel at what he was able to do. I listened to the soundtrack for the movie a lot too because I thought Timothy Chalamet did such a great job singing Bob Dylan's songs. And yeah, what makes it so satisfying is this is a movie that never should have worked, and yet it did. And I just Timothy Chalamet obviously outstanding, but as you mentioned, Cam, the supporting cast also fantastic. This movie would not work without people like Edward Norton, Monica Barbaro, Boyd Holbrook, Elle Fanning. The supporting cast is also absolutely stellar. So this movie, I was sad to see it not win any of the major awards at the Oscars, but I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't have respect for this film. I think it is just extremely, extremely well done. And I want to end, Cam, with a question for you because I'm very curious to hear your response on this
All
because
right.
you've made your feelings about what James Mangold did with Dial of Destiny be known, but he was obviously the director of A Complete Unknown, and we both agree that he did a great job with the movie. So is he back in your good graces at all?
Okay, so do the pros outweigh the cons? Does the bad outweigh the good, or does the good outweigh the bad? Honestly, no.
Okay.
And this is because it's a different type of movie, and I think a more skilled director could have made Dial of Destiny good. James Mangold made it bad, made it really bad. It was a very bad, 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 bad movie. And obviously, I don't think he's a terrible director. He's made a lot of good movies, but is he necessarily in my good graces? No. If I was a studio, I would be very careful about hiring him, and I would only hire him as a director for certain roles, maybe, because I just didn't love what he did. And then again, I don't know all of the details. I know Disney is a big studio, meaning studio interference is possible. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that there's probably some studio meddling around, and I hope that's the case. But is he fully on my good side? No. But do I think he made a great movie in a complete unknown? Yes. I think he made a fantastic movie. So, yes, his reputation for me is going up, and I think it should for you. But still, he has to do a little bit more work to prove that nothing like Dial of Destiny will ever happen again. But that about does it for this episode of the Everything Podcast. Will, thank you so much for joining me, as always. And thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Everything Podcast. Once again, so sorry my webcam's not on, everyone. But next week, we'll be back. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of the podcast, and we'll see you next week.